Missouri's General Assembly is on spring break. Lawmakers are out of Jeff City for a week, but not before pushing a flurry of bills through the House. Some of the biggest measures of the first half of the session include a push to put Medicaid work requirements in the Missouri Constitution. The House advanced a bill that would extend the statute of limitations for survivors of child sex abuse. Another bill affects property taxes, capping how much the government could raise your home's assessed value. And then there are the efforts to make major changes to taxes in Missouri, a push that could affect the state for years to come. Last week, the House passed a pair of measures. One would phase out the income tax, something Governor Mike Kehoe is pushing for. The other would replace the income tax with an expanded sales tax. That one would have to go to voters next year.
With the increase in the sales tax base, we don't want government to have it. That's what we'll use to lower people's income tax and property taxes. So when people are out there saying the state won't have any revenue and you'll just get rid of $9 billion, that just is not the case. We're going to trigger down the income tax rate slowly, but within 3 years, if we decide let's modernize what we're doing, I think it could go much faster.
Here's the rub. Missouri's budget isn't what it used to be. Governor Kehoe recently announced the state expects a $2 billion general revenue shortfall for the fiscal year starting in July, with only $4.7 million left on June 30th of next year, down from as much as $8 billion a few years ago.
The nonpartisan Missouri Budget Project has told us that this sales tax hike plan will raise costs for 4 out of 5 Missourians. And I still can't wrap my head around why the governor and most Republicans are falling in line behind this plan, because it is absolutely going to make life more expensive for their constituents.
Critics are concerned about the cuts also being proposed to try and stem shortfalls now, including plans that could slash child care subsidies. Let's get to the heart of the matter with our roundtable of journalists. Please welcome back KMBC 9 political reporter Michael Mahoney and Jason Hancock, editor-in-chief of the Missouri Independent. Gentlemen, let's start with tax reform. As we said, part of this plan, this expanded sales tax proposal, would have to go to voters. Jason, that's got to be a tough sell.
Yeah, especially when you've got a lot of deep-pocketed interests that are going to try to push back on it. You know, expanding the sales tax to new services, you're going to run into opposition from business community. The Realtors Association, which has a lot of money to spend and some success with ballot measures, are going to fight against it. Look, cutting taxes, that's an easy sell for most Missourians, but it's that second part, giving legislature this broad authority, that's going to be really tricky to convince Missourians of. But that's going to be an expensive fight heading into the fall, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the key point of Governor Kehoe's plans this year is trying to do something with the income tax. This is the other shoe on that, and as Jason was indicating, there's going to be a lot of pushback about it. The Democrats are going to fight it tooth and nail, but they're a super minority, so it remains to be seen what happens with it until it goes to the voters.
Property tax also, Mahoney, is one of the priorities. How do you try to get both done when the surplus is shrinking the way it is?
It's a tough nut. There's no question about that. Property taxes, as everybody knows, is certainly in Jackson County and throughout the metro area, has been a lightning bolt for several years. So folks around here and some other large metropolitan communities really want to see some reform on that. And then again, you've got the governor pushing his income tax plan and the sales tax dynamics on that. It's complex.
Yeah, we know the House has been very busy. Speaker Patterson told me last week that he is proud of the volume of the bills being passed. Jason, what's your midterm assessment on the Senate side? Is gridlock still an issue there?
It is. It's a different kind of gridlock. You know, in the past, we've seen Republicans fighting each other. This year, Democrats have slowed things down quite a bit, have demanded long debates on basically every bill, which has made it to where the Senate has not passed anywhere near as many bills as the House has. And then you had a dust-up right before spring break started between a Republican and a Democrat over a bill that would have honored a fallen firefighter in the Kansas City area. It was going to be fast-tracked. The Republican knocked it off the calendar, sort of as retribution for some of the Democratic stall tactics. It's been since that objection's been withdrawn, but it shows this sort of back and forth, even on bills that likely will pass unanimously, is going to be a mark of the session in the Senate once again.
The Democrats indicated even before this session started, after last session, that because of the way that they did not like things, how that session ended, that they were going to try to slow things down, and that's what they've been doing, and that led to this confrontation between Senator Bratton and Senator Neuenberger over what should have been a pretty brainless bill.
Yeah. What should we be watching looking forward, Mahoney?
This big fight over the budget in the Missouri House and the Senate. They have to have a budget done by the front of May, and so when they come back from their spring break in a week or so, the budget and the tight nature of the state's finances is really going to be something to watch.
Jason?
I got to echo Mahoney on this one. I think the budget and the impact it has on every other bill, I think you're going to start to see legislators looking at how much bills cost and whether adding money to programs even outside of the budget process is wise when we're staring down huge deficits and surpluses disappearing over the next year.
Yeah, a lot of questions left to be answered. We'll leave it there for now. Jason Hancock, Michael Mahoney, thank you so much. Count on KMBC 9 News and Heart of the Matter to keep tabs on what's happening in Jeff City and what it means for you. Look for updates on air and online at KMBC.com.